Some news here on Dolphins today as Isaiah Wynn is back. He is re-signing a one-year deal with the Miami Dolphins as announced by his agents. No contract details at this time for Isaiah Wynn, given the fact he's coming off the injury and okay when healthy, but maybe not great run blocking season for the Dolphins. I would expect this is cheap, little to no guaranteed money, maybe not even fully guaranteed a roster spot. Maybe he is. He'll fight for a role on this Dolphins team, and it gives them the floor of having someone that, if healthy, can start at left guard. So maybe there's a little bit more guaranteed money, but it's going to be pretty cheap, I believe. Now, these stats this past year from Isaiah Wynn. Didn't allow a sack, didn't allow a hit, only allowed a few hurries, all things considered. The issue was PFF did not grade him out very well as a run blocker. I would say, it's PFF. The Dolphins ran the ball pretty well, so maybe it's not the worst idea in terms of having him back. And I think the results may be a little bit better than what PFF had graded him out as. But they certainly know ball after all. So this is where, for now at least, the offensive line depth chart sits. I'd say you got, I think between Wynn or Jones, you can maybe start one of those two guys, compete with Lester Cotton in there. Your tackles are set. I think Aaron Brewer is set as your center. He could play guard if you brought back Connor Williams. More on that at the end of today's show. But you have some stability and options now at the left guard spot and the guard spot, even after losing Robert Hunt to a massive contract this past season. I think this team needed a cheap option at left guard. And bringing back the guy that you clearly still like, that knows your offense, those types of moves make a lot of sense for the Dolphins. That is a logical decision for them to go out and do. So bringing back Isaiah Wynn, I'm all for it. I don't think it also precludes you from adding a better piece at guard if later on in free agency somebody becomes more available cheaply than maybe what they had originally been asking for. Or if in the draft you find somebody that you really, really like. So today's pinned comment is this. Give me your one-word reaction to the Dolphins bringing back Isaiah Wynn. It is that pinned comment, so if the ad plays on YouTube, just ignore it. Nobody cares about the ad. Go vote at the pinned comment. Drop that one-word reaction for me. Let's hit some rumors out there in free agency. Some wide receiver buzz to begin. Barry Jackson reporting that Miami has interest in signing the former Eagle wide receiver, Quez Watkins, reporting later last night, or I guess afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it. The Dolphins have been poking around on more receivers to fill out their rotation. Among the names they've inquired about, per sources, is Quez Watkins, who caught 98 passes for a little under 1,250 yards, 6 TDs in the past 4 years. I'm sure there are others. Not sure who, but they'll add more to come. This is what Watkins has done over the first 4 years of his NFL career. The big outlier season was in 2021. He had almost 700 receiving yards. Didn't do a ton in terms of touchdowns over the course of his NFL career, but he does bring the one thing Miami loves to have on this team: receivers. They just love it. So would you sign Quez Watkins? If you ran the Dolphins organization, would you go out and add him? More on this to come here. Y for yes, N for no. Now, I think Watkins should end up fitting their price range. He didn't do that much this past season for the Eagles. Kind of fell out of favor. Olamide Zaccheaus came in. They had Julio Jones for a little bit. He fits the typical archetype of a Dolphins wide receiver. He's fast. Dolphins love their speed at wide receiver, and Watkins ran a 4.35 40-yard dash. I don't think the cost would be very expensive. I think this would be a fairly cheap one-year deal. Again, you fall into that ideal bucket NFL teams love. One-year deal, near the vet minimum, little to no guaranteed money. Teams love to make those signings, not necessarily in phase one, week one of free agency, but later on. And I do think this Dolphins team is looking for more wide receiver. We mentioned the interest in bringing back the possibility of bringing back Robbie Chosen, You have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle ain't going anywhere this year. Braxton Berrios is back to kind of man some slot duties. Watkins can play slot too. He's more your vertical speed slot threat. Eric Izukama's there. Anthony Schwartz he just can't catch. As fast as all get out, just can't catch. Matthew Sexton, Braylon Sanders. You're going to carry at least, probably 9 to 12 receivers into training camp. So there's room to add some more pieces there for Miami. That potentially includes Michael Thomas, as the Miami Herald suggesting the team could have interest in the former Saints receiver. Here's what they wrote. Hill has already publicly, meaning Tyreek Hill, lobbied on social media for Michael Thomas, who at one point won Offensive Player of the Year with the New Orleans Saints, but has been derailed by injuries. At his peak, Thomas was one of the best route runners in the NFL who did damage over the middle of the field. But he's played just 20 games in the last 4 seasons. However, at 6'3", 212 pounds, Thomas would give quarterback Tua Tagovailoa a bigger pass catcher who could take advantage of a team's number 3 cornerback. It's a lot to unpack with Michael Thomas here. The biggest issue is he's played 20 games in the past 4 seasons, as the Miami Herald points out. That's not very many games. It's missing more games than you've played. And when he has been out there, he hasn't been very good. Slant Boy's unbelievable 2019 campaign, which, by the way, is not an insult to call him that. Kind of like when you call Jamal Adams Blitz Boy. It works. Who cares? Stop the slant then. I don't tell him. The 1,700-yard campaign, he hasn't combined that in the past 3 seasons. Not even close to that figure. This is not the same guy that we saw be truly one of the best offensive players in the NFL. And when it's 4 years and you're barely past the 1,000-yard mark, I don't think that's a good sign. More on this to come. But do you want to add Michael Thomas? S for sign, P for pass. Sound off in the comments section. Look, the pros are he comes back and he's back to form and he takes advantage of the number 3 corners. I have concerns about him, physically being able to do that at this stage in his NFL career. He's going to have to work exclusively underneath. And would you rather put the slant to Michael Thomas or slant to Tyreek Hill? Yeah, I think another route I would go. I would also be anxious about him complaining about his role, about him being upset, because he has complained plenty previously. He called out a reporter for saying he was going to be cut, and then he was cut. Because it was a simple miscommunication of Thomas is not understanding the technicality of the contract. The Saints had told him he was not going to be back. Like, he knew that going in. Thomas thought he was a free agent. He was going to be, but they had to formally cut him still. So just very complicated confusion. And he wouldn't log off social media. He complains plenty. And I would be anxious about, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle getting there, 18 targets a game, whatever it is, leaving 2 for Michael Thomas, and he gets mad about it. I would be, you can bring him in for a meeting, get a feel for it, but I don't know if he's going to get the best reviews from his previous coaching staff. When Dolphins news happens, just like the Isaiah Wynn signing, we have you guys covered. So don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now. Now, one more name linked to the Dolphins via the Miami Herald is Calais Campbell, and I am very intrigued by this one. They cited his ties with the Baltimore Ravens. He's bounced around in recent years, was with the Ravens most recently, spent time with the Atlanta Falcons. He did overlap, at least a little bit, by the way, with new defensive coordinator and former Ravens D-line coach Anthony Weaver. Despite getting up there in age, the local to an extent, I think it counts. I mean, he's local. We'll count it as local. I know he's from Denver, but he went to college at Miami, Florida, so we'll count it there. Had a good year last year for the Atlanta Falcons. It's listed at 6'8", 280, gives you that 5 technique role, right? You have Zach Zeeler as one of those guys who can play inside on passing downs too. I would love to add a player like Calais Campbell. I don't know what his market is. I don't know how much he's trying to get. He got a pretty good contract last year from Atlanta. Maybe he's going to try to find another $8-something million deal as well. But if I were the Dolphins, Campbell would be high up on my list. They've made changes. You're never going to properly replace Christian Wilkins in year one. There's just no way, at least not with one player. And I think you still need more help body-wise because you got Neville Gallimore, Deshaun Hand, Benito Jones is back and play nose guard for you. Isaiah Mack, Brandon Peely, Davion Nixon, Jonathan Harris could be a piece for you as a rotation guy. Who's your other dude? I don't know if you got a dude right now at defensive tackle. So yes, I would have interest in Campbell. Of all the guys discussed, be my number 1 option.